have time for a few questions for Dr. Austad, and we'll come back at the end for questions for both panelists. But just in relationship to his talk, again, please raise your hand. We'll have microphones delivered to people as they have questions. So let me just start by addressing the point that you raised about living healthier longer. So the notion, this so-called notion of compression of morbidity was put forth by actually a Stanford physician, Jim Fries, years ago. The idea that there's this period of time as we age where we have this period of morbidity or dysfunction, and that the progress in medical technology would compress that so we'd be healthy longer and then have a very short period of disability. I mean, do you see evidence that that has happened? I mean, it's argued that it is happening or it has not happened. What is your perspective on that?
I think it's an open question. We have some of the interventions that we know about in animals that do seem to do that, and others, some of the ones that have the largest effect on longevity, it's almost like they have stretched out a rubber band, like what's happened so far. More healthy life, more unhealthy life. And if that turns out to be the case, that's actually a huge philosophical dilemma. Is that worth doing? We all hope that it's going to be mortality compression, morbidity compression, but I don't think it's entirely clear which direction that's going to go yet. But one of the things about being able to do these trials is that I think we'll be able to sort out the longevity interventions that compress morbidity and pursue those, and from the ones that don't.
Great. So do you have microphones? Sorry, where are we? Do we have microphones here?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, there we go. Sorry.
My name's Taylor Sutherland. I work with Halbert Hargrove. This may or may not be in your wheelhouse in terms of your specific efforts, but I'm curious to know, one of the things that makes a lot of headlines these days is income inequality. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on the idea of an age inequality. Is there a possibility that there's a huge disparity between some, people or groups of people in this country that do live to 105 and others that might actually have decreasing longevity? And how do we handle that?
Yeah, well, it's certainly true that there's a huge disparity. There's almost two cultures at this point, because there are groups in this country, mainly people who don't have at least a high school education, and their life expectancy has actually been declining for the last 20 years. So that's clearly a problem, and what I was showing with this study increases the averages. But one of the things that I think is that these things tend to trickle down. Some of the interventions that we have really are not costly, so the barrier is not going to be one of economic access, it's going to be one of education. And I think that's ultimately what's going to cause disparities to decrease. Not just educating people, but getting people educations, because one of the interesting things that's happening now is that the incidence of Alzheimer's disease is actually starting to go down. One of the hypotheses for this is that people are getting more and more education, and education is actually protective against Alzheimer's disease. So the disparity issue is real. I'm hoping we can find ways to decrease it, though.
No nice way to ask this, but who pays for us to live longer?
Well,
when you think about Social Security, retirement accounts, we aim for 25 to 30 years. At year 31, somebody has to help us out.
Yes, there's actually a really nice analysis of this that was done a few years ago. And certainly if we keep the retirement age what it is now, or even what it's projected to be in the near future, then the longer and healthier people live, the more it's going to bankrupt the government. Something has to give. An analysis that was done showed that if the retirement age was increased by 3 years, there would actually be a huge net benefit to to an increase in healthy life by 20%. So it's an issue that we can't avoid. I think we need to be talking about it now. Every time I've written a newspaper column on retirement age, I've gotten more mail than I ever get on any topic. And again, some of it addresses this disparity, because for people like the people in this room, raising the retirement age would probably have very little effect. But then I get an email from somebody who says, I'm 62, you know, I've been working in construction since I was 20, I can't stand up straight, I'm in pain all over. If you delay my retirement another 3 years, I don't know what I'll do. So it's a serious problem. And but it's a problem we need to be thinking about now, and it's a problem, and I think the Longevity Center is absolutely perfectly poised to start addressing.
Great. Okay, one more question, and then we'll come back, Dr. Austad. One more, just one more. Yeah. Okay.
Richard Adler from Institute for the Future. I'd like to go back to the science for a minute. You said the door was opened in 2009, and now we've got a few more years of knowledge. What is your view of what the solution or the approach is likely to be? Will it be a pill? Will it be a combination? How far off is that? What's your assessment of the current state and where of the various approaches that you mentioned, the most interesting work is happening, or the most promising?
Well, there are several types of therapies that are really starting human trials almost as we speak. One with certain types of pills, and there are others that are lined up behind them, so there are lots and lots of possibilities. But the ones that are not necessarily the most promising, but the ones that show promise but have the best record of safety are about ready to trial. There are trials of this young blood that are about to start or already underway. I actually think that the best health is going to be a combination. We don't want something that's a substitute for exercise. Well, some of us might want something that's a substitute. But it's hard for me to think that anything we do that we don't also do, intelligent exercise regimes, intelligent dietary regimes with, all of that will work synergistically, I think, to give us this extra couple of decades of healthy life.